Welcome back. The conversations continue here in Davos 2026. While a lot of the talk has been around tariffs and the impact of tariffs, what we are also seeing being focused on is, of course, artificial intelligence, which was the theme last year, continues to be an underlying theme this year as well. But the focus is also back on cryptocurrencies, on blockchain, on tokenization, on stable coins. And we have seen the US take some fairly accelerated moves in passing regulation and legislation to support that entire ecosystem. India, of course, continues to have a regulatory grey when it comes to the use of cryptocurrencies. Digital assets, a different story altogether. Joining us now to talk about the world of blockchain, cryptocurrencies and what the outlook for 2026 is, Richard Teng of Binance. Richard, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Let me start by asking you exactly that. What's the outlook for 2026? We have, of course, from a market cap point of view, seen the cryptos coming off their all-time highs, but what does 2026 hold?
Well, so if you look at last year, I mean, crypto went to, in terms of market capitalization, went to 4 trillion,
yes,
and then sort of get muted response after that. But if you look at the underlying, the foundation is extremely strong. If you look around the world, I mean, we achieved several milestones last year, right? So, for example, Binance, we achieved 34 trillion in terms of trading value. Got 300 million users signed up by end of last year, and then we secured our global license with ADGM that regulates us from end to end. But if you look at the momentum in which all the asset classes are moving on-chain now, the future is extremely bright in terms of usage of blockchain technology. If you look at stablecoin issuance, market cap went up more than 50%. In terms of transaction volume, more than triple with Clarity Act, with Genius Act coming through in the US. So regulatory clarity does provide impetus for a lot of all this innovation to be supported. And once US does it, the rest of the world will be forced to sit up and take notice, right, of all these transactions, all this value creation within the blockchain space.
You know, you talked about regulations changing in the US and that being supportive of the build-out as far as this ecosystem is concerned. But, you know, I was having a conversation with Jenny Johnson of Franklin Templeton, and she believes that 2026 could perhaps be the convergence of, blockchain, tokenization, digital assets with traditional financial services. How do you see that going forward?
We're already seeing that happening, right? So the convergence of Web 2, Web 3 space, of TradFi, and the crypto space, right? So you mentioned Franklin Templeton, Jenny. She's a partner of ours. We work together on her token. So we are helping the Web 2 players, the TradFi players that wish to venture into this space to really support the digitalization, the tokenization of asset classes on that front, right? So we work very closely with governments around the world in terms of not only tokenization but also crypto payments. But we work with corporates alike. And last year alone, we saw huge institutional onboarding on Binance. Trading volume of institutions increased by about 20% on our platform. So the momentum is very, very strong on that front.
And what is the number that you believe that you could possibly see as you onboard more corporations to come onto this?
Well, Binance's aspiration is to support the freedom of money everywhere in the world. Our user number, our focus is on reaching a 1 billion threshold. So we have just crossed 300 million last year. And over the course of last 2 years, we onboarded, and on average, more than 60 million new customers every year. So the momentum continues to be very, very strong, and we are focusing on building the best-in-class product suite with the best features, with the best security and compliance to support our users worldwide on that front. And now with the global license that we secured, Abu Dhabi Global Markets, we are able to push forth with more asset classes on our platform. We just introduced gold and silver perpetual contracts 2 weeks ago. Very robust response. So we're looking to introduce other asset classes for our users.
Well, speaking of other asset classes, and this could perhaps also be an inflection point as far as real-world asset tokenization is concerned. And what you see on that front, real estate now starting to happen, where are the next sort of green shoots emerging?
Well, real-world assets tokenization is a perfect example of how blockchain is transforming the world, right? It's programmable. Everything is on-chain. Institutions and retail investors alike can start trading assets on a 24/7 basis. Yesterday, New York Stock Exchange just announced they're going to put their assets on-chain, right? to allow 24/7 trading, and that's the way to go, because that's the only way that you can manage the risk effectively. With information coming on stream any time of the day, you need to hedge risk, you need to take positions, right? And crypto never sleeps. And now traditional assets are moving there because they understand the value of 24/7 trading. So we're going to see a lot more in terms of convergence on that space, and we are supporting, financial institutions, our users alike, in terms of that transformation journey.
Stablecoins, we talked about Franklin Templeton, but I just had MasterCard, and they were talking about how they're now seeing stablecoin adoption pick up, and that's an exciting space that they're considering and sort of building on as well. What do you see on that front?
Well, stablecoin is one of the killer apps within the crypto space, right? So if you look at traditional financial infrastructure, the way it's built decades ago, it's very archaic, it's very slow, it's costly. If you do a fund transfer cross-border, it'll take you 2 to 3 days for the funds to arrive, a very high cost. So which is why, if you do it via stablecoin, it's instantaneous at a fraction of the price, which is now, retail in the past has always embraced it. They know the beauty of it. And now with, the Genius Act coming through in the US, the institutions, the banks are embracing it as well to say, look, this is superior technology and superior architecture that can solve a lot of problems. Corporate treasuries are now moving on to stable coins and crypto because it allows them to hold much less capital. It allows them to move capital globally on a 24/7 basis with certainty of when the money is going to arrive compared to traditional methods.
You talked about the Genius Act, the Clarity Act as well, and what does this do now to sort of validate this ecosystem, to validate innovation within this ecosystem as well? And how do you see other governments responding to what the US is doing?
Well, so the US is extremely strategic. President Trump is very, very strategic on that front, right? So he wants the US to be the AI capital of the world, the crypto capital of the world, blockchain capital of the world, because he understands that these two technology will drive every economic subsector going forward, right? If you rethink the world, in terms of entertainment, in terms of supply chain, financial services, it can be built on these two fundamental technology going forward. So by being the champion, by fostering growth, talent, density, and innovation in US, right, you'll be at the leading edge. And the rest of the world, in terms of government and policymakers, they have to rethink their approach towards AI and blockchain, right? If they are not supportive of it, then they'll lose competitive edge vis-a-vis the US, right? So I think it's a pivotal moment for most countries to sit up and take notice.
Well, what about India and how you see what's happening in India? Of course, the regulator there has said no to cryptos, yes to digital assets, as well as a central bank digital currency. But how do you see India?
Well, India is an extremely big market, largest demographics in the world. If you look at Chainalysis report, India ranks number 1 in terms of crypto adoption index at the grassroots level. So, very tech-savvy population, young demographics, you can see crypto being embraced by many within the community, right? So, we are regulated by FIU in India. We look forward to working very closely with policymakers. I think lack of knowledge sometimes causes misgivings. As you can see, whether it's Jamie Dimon, Larry Fink, used to be crypto skeptic, now they have changed to become crypto believers. But the deep understanding enabled them to bring about that change. And hopefully, the more we can bring about the knowledge transfer to the policymakers, not only in India but throughout the world, can see a lot more policymakers and regulators starting to embrace and support this sector.
So do you have any specific plans for India?
Oh, we continue to support our users there, right? So we continue to work very closely with policymakers and regulators, as well as law enforcement agencies.
A deal that didn't happen, WazirX, that never went through. Any possibility of something happening in the future?
I'm not going to comment on that. It's a past deal. Everything is public. And I think WazirX has gone through liquidation, if I'm not wrong. Right? So I think we're just going to leave it as that.
Well, Richard, we wish you the very best of luck. Thanks very much for joining us here in Davos. Appreciate your time and look forward to seeing more of you. Well, hopefully all of the predictions that you've made here as far as the crypto world is concerned, we will check in on them through the course of the year. Thanks very much for joining us here in Davos. We are going to take a break. The conversations will continue here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned. There's more coming to you live from Davos 2026 right after this.